Hello there. Welcome to my review for the brand new Star Wars TV series, Obi-Wan Kenobi. One of the most anticipated things I think has ever released for me. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and unlike majority of people, I've actually enjoyed most of the new stuff they've released, including the TV series. And Obi-Wan Kenobi I was very much looking forward to. Ewan McGregor coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Hayden Christensen coming back as Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker. There was so much potential for this show, and I was very much looking forward to it. There was a bit of me that hoped it was a movie, but in a TV series, especially ones that are released nowadays with such higher quality and production values, just more runtime is always a better thing for me. And I think that in some ways did work in Kenobi's favor, in some ways it didn't. Overall, I did really like the series. I enjoyed it, but there were elements that were underwhelming to me. But as a Star Wars fan, I was satisfied by the end of the series, even though it had a rough start. And talking about that start, the first episode for me was decent. It began, Obi-Wan Kenobi's trauma, his life, 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. We got a nice little Order 66 flashback there. And what I liked about this first episode was it didn't focus on the spectacle. It showcased its grand approach. The show was directed by Deborah Chow, and while a lot of the show felt fairly directionless, especially when the action sequences came along, this show wasn't necessarily about the spectacle like other Star Wars things. The production value, though, did seem a little cheaper, especially than The Mandalorian. In this series, they used practical sets, and they didn't use that lovely screening stuff that The Mandalorian uses to make it look that much more effective and movie quality and cinematic. They didn't use that for Kenobi, and you can kind of tell the production quality was a bit weaker here, and in some areas it generally looked cheap, and I was quite disappointed that the direction was so listless, even though everything in the story I really enjoyed. A lot of people wanted this really deep character study, and while there is parts of that in there, Ewan McGregor shines as this character. This series is a very simple Star Wars adventure. It definitely has a Logan-esque story where he's got to take care of a young child. In this case, it's, of course, Leia and Luke. And I really liked Leia and Obi-Wan's relationship in this show. I thought it was very sweet, and I thought the young actress did a great job. But Ewan McGregor really stole this entire series for me. Everything about his character here really worked, and it was so great not just seeing him back, but seeing him in a different position, a different character. He's renounced his religion in a way. He's not following the Jedi code, and he feels like he was responsible for everything that's happened, and he has a nice arc about that later in the series. And that brings us to Darth Vader, who I think was brilliant in this show, and I thought Hayden Christensen was great. They didn't use him too much earlier on, but when he did come in, I wouldn't say overused him, but we saw more than him than I expected. We got some great flashbacks here and there, stuff that I expected, but he was generally terrifying, and there was a much greater sense of the person he became after Revenge of the Sith. The final duel between him and Obi-Wan was freaking thrilling, and everything involving Vader and Obi-Wan's conflict was phenomenal to me. They added so much depth to these two characters that made the entire show worth it. And actually, the entire series was very necessary, for me anyway, continuing the Star Wars story. Now let's move on and talk about each episode kind of separately. The first episode, I thought, worked to rebuild Kenobi's character. There wasn't too much action in this series, in this episode in particular, but they knew how to slowly build up the mission that he was going to be on and showcase the state of the galaxy, and I thought it did a good job of that, and the grounded direction really worked here. The second episode was not quite as good. It focused on more of the adventure and the mission side of things, but it was a decent episode for sure. I was definitely on track with the series at this point. The third episode definitely amped it up, but there was an aspect of disappointment at how the production values didn't necessarily suit the epic conflict going on, but I loved the sequences between Obi-Wan and Vader, at least, and I think 3 was one of the more thrilling episodes of the series, but I thought it was the weakest executed. Episode 4 was just filler. I enjoyed it, though. It was fun, it was fine, but it felt like it wasn't necessary. It's like we could just cut the episode out. Episode 5 was great. It was really thrilling. The direction still hurt the show for me. The shaky action and stuff like that. and the stilted direction. There was some beautiful shots, some beautiful imagery. But 5 was definitely the episode that made me go, you know what? This show has gone from underwhelming to really thrilling very quickly. And that leads us to episode 6, which I thought was perfect. I don't have a single problem with the final episode of the show. It amped up everything. It was a brilliant conclusion in every single way. There was a spectacular final action sequence, emotions hit at the end, and it connected everything up. And the little amounts of fan service it gave felt like necessary inclusions to the series. Fan service is really not apparent in this show as much as people are saying, and this show is nowhere near as bad as people are saying it is. It's pretty damn good enough, I think, for an Obi-Wan Kenobi series. As I said, I think it would have been better as a movie, as a more concise story, and with less runtime, there could have cut down some of the weaker aspects of the show. Reva started off as a very underdeveloped villain, but then later on she became much more interesting. You understand exactly why she acted, and I actually really like that character, and I hope we see more of her in the future. And the show as a whole, I thought, was a lot better than the separate episodes. The episodes separately felt a little bland, a little underwritten, but when you see the entire arc of the series, that final episode really makes the entire thing worth it. It makes you go, wow, this show is actually really necessary for the Star Wars saga, and I think the entire series as one makes it great. The reason why I think it is a series instead of a movie is so then it gives them the opportunity to make more if they want to. Because I would not mind a second season of Kenobi. There's enough time there to have more, but it ends in a perfect way where you realize, you know what, this story is something from beginning, middle, and end. You don't necessarily need to expand it, but if we ever want to expand it in the future, we can very much easily go back to it. But they'll have to do it soon, unless these actors get too old or anything. But I wouldn't mind seeing more because I thought what was here was good. It's not quite the quality of some of the other Star Wars series. I wasn't a huge fan of Book of Boba Fett, but I thought visually it was a lot stronger than this. And The Mandalorian, I think, is excellent. Kenobi was pretty good for the majority of the time, even though I think it would have been a lot better as a film, and I wish there was some more directional style to it. I think the grounded nature of it worked, but not for everything. Sometimes I felt like it needed a bit more spectacle, but I still enjoyed it all. I thought it was very good, and just seeing Ewan McGregor back as his character was great. The fan service wasn't in your face, it was there for a reason, and it made me happy watching the show. I really much enjoyed it, and John Williams' new score, the new theme, was fantastic. Such a harmonic theme, just a beautiful musical track. The rest of the score I thought was fine, but overall I think Kenobi is one of my favorite projects they've done from Star Wars, just based on the finale. All of it, when it connected together, made me appreciate it much more. It's one of those shows that started rough, it started underwhelming, I wasn't necessarily into it, it was a bit disappointing for me. On a quality level, it felt a little underwritten, a little underdirected, but once the finale hit, everything, all my problems with the series just kind of withered away, and I went, you know what, this ended spectacularly. I don't mind that we got 2 or 3 fantastic episodes and a few mediocre ones, because those mediocre ones were just extra stuff. It is a must-watch for Star Wars fans, and even though it starts a little underwhelming, when it finally finds the high ground in that finale, makes the entire series worth it. I'm going to give Obi-Wan Kenobi a B+, and an 8 out of 10. Guys, let me know what you thought of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series in the comments down below. I also have my letterboxd linked attached. I have loads of other movies and reviews on there. And guys, thank you for watching, and goodbye there.